Okay, thank you for joining us this afternoon for the Minot Area Chamber EDC Government Affairs Committee Candidate Forum for the Ward County Commission. This is the only candidate forum ahead of the November 2024 general election. My name is Mark Lyman. I'm an employee of the Minot Area Chamber EDC and a member of the MAC EDC Government Affairs Committee and will be the moderator for this forum tonight. Thanks for tuning in to watch, and thanks to those who've joined us here in person. If you're watching live online and would like to propose a question to be asked of all the candidates tonight, please feel free to drop that question in the chat or comment section of the Facebook page or the YouTube page you are viewing. We will review these suggestions and ask them if possible. We are scheduled to go no later than 6 p.m. tonight. If we do run out of questions, we might get out of here a little bit sooner. We have 6 candidates running for 3 open seats on the Ward County Commission. 2 of our candidates are incumbents, 4 are challengers. In alphabetical order, they are as follows: Ashley Golke, Ron Merritt, Jedediah Rader, Jim Rosted, Miranda Schuler, and Shelley Wepler. Ron Merritt was unable to make it tonight, so we do have 5 candidates with us here. A few quick ground rules for this afternoon's forum. We ask that the candidates not address each other with their responses, but that they address me as the moderator, and please stay focused on the questions being asked. In light of a great turnout from the candidates and to give everyone a chance to respond to every question, we are asking that you hold your response to under 1 minute or less. I will do my best to time your responses and encourage responses to stay at a minute or less. Thanks to the candidates for choosing to participate in a forum that will allow voters an opportunity to get to know you and your various positions. As well, thank you to the City of Minot for allowing us use of the City Hall Council chambers to present this forum today. Let's first get to know our candidates. Would each of you please take 1 minute or less to introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for Ward County Commission. We're going to start on my left, so Ashley, you'll go first on this question. Please tell us again who you are and why you're running for Ward County Commission.
My name is Ashley Golke. I believe on the ballot it's Ashley Golke Levitt, as my married last name is Levitt. I'm an attorney in town. I'm a farmer's wife and a mom of 3 children. I guess I am running because originally there were only 2 spots on the ballot taken up, and people encouraged me to. And part of those individuals were mostly people who felt like there really wasn't a rural voice, and I believe I'm striving to be that, a voice for the people in the rural communities.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Miranda, you're next.
First off, I want to thank the Chamber EDC for having this forum and giving the citizens the ability to hear from us directly. I feel like some of these positions don't get that kind of light, so I do appreciate that. I also appreciate the people that are here, specifically my 17-year-old daughter who came on her own recognizance. She's probably the reason I run for positions. I've run for different positions and actually been elected to positions. I think it's important to show our younger generation that they can do these things and they should do these things. It's important to our communities to be active members, and so that's the reason I run in general. Specifically for this position, I've previously served on the City Council and on the school board. I have an interest in political subdivisions and how they work. Not everybody has those interests. I do. And initially, prior to the June election, I had actually reached out to a couple people that were currently serving and expressed an interest, but the timing wasn't right for me with a graduating child and a couple things planned. When there was only 2 people on the ballot for the 3 positions, that's a problem. The community deserves a choice, so I decided to run a write-in campaign, and that's what finds me here today. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you, Miranda. Shelley, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, and again, thank you so much to the Chamber of Commerce for having this event, and to all who took time out of your day to come here. I am a lifelong resident of North Dakota. My parents moved here when I was 4, so I got to enjoy growing up in this community, went to Edison Jim Hill Central, which was then Minot High, and got to be the first class to graduate from the new school back then, Magic City campus. I chose to join the Army right out of high school after I lifeguarded for the summer, And I served in the Army as a military police in Aschaffenburg, Germany, during a time when most people in the military were in a place they really didn't want to be because they had been drafted. The draft had ended just prior to my time joining. When I finished my term, I got a European out and spent 3 months traveling through Europe, backpacking through Europe using the Eurail Pass. I say those things because those gave me a real edge, I think, when I returned. When I returned, within 2 weeks period of time, I got a job at the bank, I bought my first car, and I enrolled at Minot State University. I have a degree in business administration, worked in the banking world for 20 years, currently lead a community foundation, and the reason that I ran for my first term was because I was at a business after hours. Someone was gathering their signatures, and there were only 2 people running. And they turned and said, "You should consider it." And I went home that night, and I looked at my husband, and I said, "I think I should." And the reason I thought that I should is at that time, there were 80 people on the social services, in social services working. And the foundation that I head up helps with mental, physical, spiritual, emotional well-being of people in the community. I approached my board, and I said, I think I need to learn more about the needs in this community and how our foundation
please
might
wrap
be
up,
able to
Shelley.
help that. So I'm running again now after my 3rd term because we have paid off the bonds that we asked that were approved by the citizens. And I want to be in there for the next time when, it was a hurrah day when we got to pay those bonds off early. Now those bonds money are going towards roads and other items.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Jedediah.
Hello, thank you, Chamber EDC, for hosting this. We appreciate your time and the effort it takes to put this on. The reason I'm running, I'm Jedediah. I came from Michigan about 8 years ago. I have a wife and 4 children, Tabitha, Lydia, Priscilla, and Rebecca. 3 of them go to Perkett Elementary School, and I appreciate the community here. A great school, and I appreciate that as well. The reason I'm running is because about a year ago I got involved in Sons of Liberty, and I started learning about politics. It's something I sort of wanted to get into eventually, but then I learned about how we can make a difference as average citizens, by helping the community, by volunteering, and by running for office. And so as I started studying, I'm like, man, this is fun, and I saw that we needed more people with a business mindset and with an idea of what the county should run more like a business, and so we can help keep more money at the local level and back to the taxpayers. And so what I found was, after getting involved in Sons of Liberty and watching politics and city council, how that works, I'm like, you know what, I should just run. This is fun. This is enjoyable. I like meeting people. People are fun. So I just got my name on the ballot, got my 300 signatures, and started in, and I can't wait. If I'm elected on November 5th, I am delighted to serve. So.
Okay, thank you, Jedediah. Jim, close us off, please.
I'll try. Thank you also for hosting this, and very much appreciated. I feel that I grew up in the big town of Carpio, and through that and association through high school and playing basketball against a lot of teams in Ward County, other cities, I feel that I represent all of Ward County and all the cities that know a lot of people in virtually every one of them. And I take a lot of pride in that. And a lot of the kids that I grew up with are now farmers, so I'm very cognizant of the needs of the rural areas of Ward County, as well as running a business in Minot for over 20 years. And so I feel that my depth of knowledge, serving on the school board for 24 years and then the county commission for the last 8 years, I've become very well connected with a lot of government and how it works and how to get things done on behalf of the county. And I feel very honored and blessed to have been able to serve the Ward County and the Minot School District for as long as I have. So I'm looking forward to, and as Shelley well knows, when you're on the Ward County Commission, it's not where you have a superintendent like the school district does, or have a city manager. We are in charge of many of the departments, the commissioners are, and we're their direct contact, and it takes a lot of work and effort. This isn't an easy job, and it's not 2 meetings a month, it's
Okay, let's
several.
wrap it up, Jim.
Okay, I'm good right there, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks again.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started on our series of questions now. We'll start first with Miranda. Minot Area Chamber EDC's 5-year strategic plan is focused on 5 pillars: economic development, community development, workforce development, member investor services, and military support. The first question is, what Ward County programs or efforts will you keep or change to improve the economic well-being of the individuals and businesses in our community?
That's a good question. I think it's going to be best answered by the 2 sitting commissioners because they have the best knowledge of the programs that are available. As a candidate, I've been doing my due diligence and going through the budget and meeting with the different departments to get an understanding of the services that they provide and whatnot. The county has an interesting job in that it provides services throughout all of the county and not just the Minot area, although the majority of the population is here. With respect to the items that you mentioned, that's a multifaceted type answer. I don't believe that there's any programs that I would necessarily cut. I think that we do need to focus on the critical infrastructure. I think that's the most imperative thing when you're looking at the services. I believe the job of government is to provide the critical infrastructure and the services that are needed. I don't believe that there is a lot of extra room in government for meddling in things that are best served by the businesses, so to speak. So I can't give a definite answer as I don't currently serve on that. Again, I just focus on critical infrastructure throughout the entire county.
Okay, thank you, Miranda. Shelley, the same question. What Ward County programs or efforts will you keep or change to improve the economic well-being of the individuals and businesses in our community?
I guess, given the pillars that you stated, I would focus on the fact that Ward County does have a Veterans Service Officer. We have 3 people in that position. And I know I just stopped in that office the other day, and there is a ramp-up of programs federally for these veterans, and they are becoming more busy as the days go on. They serve all of our Ward County veterans, as well as those military people who may be ready to leave the military, and they visit with them about what kind of benefits are available to them. They also see a lot of people. We have a lot of retirees here. We have a lot, because we are a base community, we have a lot of that. So I think that's probably the one that directly connects the most with the pillars that I heard you speak about. The other about community, I think that we do very well. We have some parks outlying in the areas, and our budget for those parks is $165,000. We have a couple of beaches, we have campgrounds, and $165,000 is the budget that we have to maintain and make sure that we have those locations. I think there's 6 different, you have Nelson Carlson, you have Rice Lake, we have some parks that we took on after the flood and the buyout program. We said we'll take those because we need parks where people can go and walk. So those would be the 2 things that I think right now in what you brought up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Jedediah, same question to you.
Well, that's a great question. I appreciate the question. So I was thinking about that, and honestly, the biggest thing as the commissioners we can do is to help the local communities, make sure they keep as much of their money as humanly possible. So I think especially if Measure 4 passes, that'll be a great boost to the economy because it'll give them their property taxes back, which will really help their income as well. So at the end of the day, we should seek to take as little money from the citizens as possible so they use their money the way they want to use it.
Okay, thank you. And Jim, the same question. What Ward County programs or efforts will you keep or change to improve the economic well-being of the individuals and businesses in our community?
One of the things that I encouraged as a county commissioner was to pass the half-cent sales tax, which is a form of economic development for our entire county with improvement of the roads. And that also includes serving the Air Force Base and their roads and their needs to monitor the missile system. So very aware of that and supportive of it. And the other thing is I'm completely supportive of Task Force 21 that I think is so important for the economic development of the Minot Air Force Base and the entire community of Minot and Ward County. So
Okay.
that's what I'm most concerned with.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Ashley, the same question then. What Ward County programs or efforts will you keep or change to improve the economic well-being of the individuals and businesses in our community?
I think the greatest concern for me within Ward County at this point would be the roads and the infrastructure, and that was something that Miranda and Jim both touched on. When winter comes and roads aren't plowed and people can't get to work and they're not in good shape, that I don't know of a more direct tie to the economy than people's inability to get where they need to go, to do the work they need to do. And so I think that that would be my main focus at this point, would be particularly the county roads and that infrastructure in place.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Well, let's move on to our next question. Shelley, you'll start us off with this one. As an elected individual, what role would you play in developing a community and region that continues to thrive and grow?
Again, it goes back to what we're in the middle of right now, and that is the budget process. How do we make that a region that can continue to grow? We need to look at other options. I've submitted a resolution to our North Dakota Association of Counties for consideration, which will be mute if Measure 4 passes. This won't be needed, but I'm looking at different ways of how, again, to get the money back. And the resolution that I submitted was that the state should support our local governments and pay for all the exemptions that are required or allowed under our Century Code. The North Dakota Century Code allows for exemptions from people not to pay their property taxes at this point, whether it's nonprofits, hospitals, and some of those are paid back by the state, but not all of them. And that would be my first start. If Measure 4 doesn't start, I already have that document into our North Dakota Association of Counties for presentation to legislation if that's voted on in our October meetings.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Same question to you, Jedediah. What role will you play through your elected position in developing a community and region that continues to thrive and grow?
Well, I think, again, a big part of that is people need to be able to work. They need to be able to spend their money the way they want to. So at the end of the day, I think we should be very strategic and making sure that we're not asking people not to work by, not doing our due diligence as far as like getting welfare to people where they really don't need it. I think we need to be very careful also by getting more money back to people. If Measure 4 does pass, I think that would be a huge help so people have more money to spend. So as long as we can fund the basics, right? Fund the basics of the county, be careful on how much more we take on as far as projects and everything go, and really narrow our focus on basics, whether it's road care, keeping taxes low so people have more money to spend. We need to focus on the basics.
Okay, thank you, Jedediah. Jim, same question to you.
I say it again, make sure I get the.
Sure. What role will you play through your elected position in developing a community and region that continues to thrive and grow?
Okay. One of the things that just came before the county commission last night was our wages for our employees. And we, at the last minute, elected to and voted to give them a 6% overall increase in their pay. And part of economic development is retaining good services for the county, and that's retaining our employees. And we're lagging in some areas, but we've tried to keep up and stay competitive with the area. And for them, it's important that we retain our services that will enhance economic development for the area, and by paying our employees appropriately and yet watching our budget, I think that no doubt helps our overall economic development.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Same question to you now, Ashley.
To touch a little bit on what Jim just mentioned, I had an opportunity to sit and meet with some law enforcement officers, and they had asked me a question about a pay study that was completed by the Ward County Commission, and I don't know how much money was spent on that pay study, but eventually it sounds like from them that it was elected to not follow the pay study. And what it showed was that sheriffs, deputies in similarly situated counties with similar populations were paid about 14% more than the deputies in our community. It's, to me, that's a little bit of a disgrace, and I think that it's appropriate that there was an increase in those wages, particularly for members in the Sheriff's Department, as their jobs in this community have become increasingly dangerous, and they're losing a lot of their qualified employees. I'm sure we've all noticed that crime has gone up in Ward County, and that is something that is hard to control and maintain. The City of Minot Police Department is short 16 or 17 officers. And I know that Ward County doesn't cover the City of Minot, but all of those things, paying your employees competitively is important. And if you're going to pay for a pay study, by all means, follow the advice of the professionals who gave you the advice. And for me, I think listening to the employees of the Ward County is of utmost importance, because they're the ones on the ground, they're the ones doing the work, they're the ones seeing the problems. And if you're not paying attention to them, then how are you going to ever be able to pay attention to your constituents, which would be the rest of the population within the community? So if you want to see economic growth, you also want to do it with some grace and some pride. You don't want to just say, oh, hey, great, Costco wants to come in, come blow down this corner and put it here. You need to make some requirements. They want to be here just as much as we want them here. And I don't know anything about Costco, but even where Walmart is, that could have been developed a lot better. They could have put a berm there. They could have beautified the city. But instead, it appears they were just given ability to come and not grow with
Please
beauty
wrap
and
up.
pride. And so for me, I think it's important to honor your employees, as Jim said, but also to do your best to compete so you have qualified people working.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. And Miranda, finish us off. What role will you play through your elected position in developing a community and region that continues to thrive and grow?
I want to commend our two sitting commissioners for the pay increase in the budget. I think as a business owner myself, your employees are your most important asset. They are. They serve the people, and if Jedediah had talked about operating the county like a business, I'm of like mindset. If you don't have happy employees, then they don't effectively do their jobs and serve the people that they are tasked to serve. So I do want to commend you. I think that was a good move. With regards to development, I'm big on technical type stuff. So I recently went to Public Works and sat down with Dana, talking about the employees again. The employees in the county are purchasing used military trucks, repainting and retrofitting them at a considerable savings to the county residents. I don't think people realize these things are happening. Yet another reason why those employees are so valuable. So one more piece back on that employee, but I was able to sit down and talk with Dana, and we talked about some different things. Specifically, I'm a safety type person. I work in the insurance industry. Safety is about most important, specifically motorist type safety. So the development of a safe Southwest connector corridor is a priority for me, connecting that southwest side of the community back to the landfill and to the Trinity Hospital, so that we've got a safe passage for motorists in that area, which will also play into some planning and development, much like Ashley had touched on. So if we want to have growth, we have to have the infrastructure to do it. Right now, we don't. We're directing that traffic straight through on 2 and then up 83, or potentially down 16th Street, or through the Trestle Valley area. It's not safe for the motorists, it's not safe for development. So when we're talking about specific regional development, that would be a priority for me.
Okay, thank you, Miranda. Let's move on to our next question. This is for you, Jedediah, first. What can the county employees and elected officials for the county do to support the development of current employees, regardless of where they're employed, and the continued attraction of new workforce to our region?
Well, I think one thing that current county employees can do is that we can just be, just like they do in the military, you know, if you have one person, he says, I'm going to train the person behind me to make sure they know everything I know, so when I move on, you know, he knows everything I know and he does the same thing with the person behind him. I think it's important that we have the idea that we are here to help the community. It's the community's money we're spending, and we're going to be as efficient as possible. We're going to train everybody to know how to run the county. The basics is there's nothing wrong with having like an assistant know how to do the manager's job. There's nothing wrong with that. So in business, that's what I do. So I have 3 leaders at Petco plus myself. So they all know how to run my time management system. They all know how to do everything I do. Why? Because when I step out of the building, they need to know how to do it. So at the same time, I think it's a great way to develop people at the county as well. There's no trade secrets. Let's teach, let's train, let's be an open book. Because at the end of the day, who are we helping? We're helping our citizens.
Okay, thank you, Jedediah. Jim, same question. What can the county employees and elected officials for the county do to support the development of current employees, regardless of where they're employed, and the continued attraction of new workforce to our region?
One of the main things we did, and we accomplished it last night, was by giving them a 6% pay increase, which hopefully will retain more employees, and by doing that, you also eliminate the period of training that's always necessary whenever you bring a new employee on board. So by doing this, it's definitely an economic boost for the area by retaining employees and paying them adequately.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Ashley, same question to you. Sure can. What can the county employees and elected officials for the county do to support the development of current employees, regardless of where they are employed, and the continued attraction of new workforce to our region?
You know, I don't really have an answer for that. I really don't, because I guess I'll just leave it at that. I mean, all the things that have been mentioned obviously are important, and I'm glad that there was an increase in the pay to keep those employees, but to say what can any county employee do to keep, you know, to draw people in to work at TJ Maxx, I mean, I don't know. I think that's left to the businesses themselves to attract qualified personnel and to create a beautiful community where people want to live, a safe community, and things like that. But I mean, a general example, I guess I don't have one.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Miranda, same question to you.
I'm tripped up on the regardless of where they're employed as well. That got me. I think when we're talking about how the county employees and the elected officials can support existing employees, like Jim had mentioned, I think keeping an eye on pay and benefits is a big deal. The cost to retain and develop existing employees is far less than attracting and training new employees, so that's very important. The county seems to do a pretty good job with that. I believe that there is a good, from what I can tell, for the most part, it appears that the employees are happy with their positions. Maybe I've been interpreting wrong, and if somebody is a county employee and wants to tell me otherwise, I would invite them to do so. As for what the employees of the county and the elected officials can do to attract to other businesses, I'm not sure. I think that falls more on some of the other organizations within the community, such as Minot Area Chamber EDC, maybe some of the nonprofits. It comes down to all of us being responsible for the way that we showcase our communities and our towns. I think some of the negative publicity probably detracts people from wanting to move here from time to time, and that's on us as citizens. I don't think it necessarily plays on a specific employee or elected official. So I'm kind of with Ashley on this one. I'm not sure that there's a lot that a county employee or an elected official can do to attract employment to other businesses within the area.
Okay, Shelley, finish us off on this question, please.
I would ask you to repeat it one more time, please.
For sure, it's a long one. So what can the county employees and elected officials for the county do to support the development of current employees, regardless of where they're employed, and the continued attraction of new workforce to the region?
Well, I think that we're already doing some things in different areas. Some of the different departments do go to the job fairs. I know that they're at the job fairs encouraging people. I know social services, Human Service Zone has gone to some different events and encourage people to get engaged in the social services industry. They've been up at Minot State with social services to encourage students. I think that we also have many of our employees that are engaged in other ways in the community, whether it's through the Chamber of Commerce, involved on committees or looking for the trainings that are there. I think it was just a year ago that we had 6 of our department heads take a leadership course, a national leadership course, and received papers for that. That only does us good when we encourage them to continue their education. Also associations, if our HR department isn't connected with those associations, so they become better and then can also make their employees better. And at those associations, visit with other people about the benefits of working for the county, working for Minot rather than working for another area. I think it all goes together, wraps around together.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. We're going to start the next question with Jim. So Jim, you'll start us off. From a Ward County perspective, what would you change and or improve from a quality of life standpoint that will assist existing or new businesses or residents in the county?
That's kind of a tough question, but I would say that part of it is encouraging our law enforcement to do a good, adequate job in maintaining peace and law and order in the community. And that would definitely be which I think they do already, which they're a very responsible bunch, and I think we have a great sheriff there leading that department. And I think that would be the first thing that would come to my mind.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Ashley, same question. From a Ward County perspective, what would you change and or improve from a quality of life standpoint that will assist existing or new businesses or residents in the county?
Sorry. Back to roads. I mean, for me, when I think of my quality of life and how it's affected by the county, it is our roads. When I'm unable to get to court, when I need to get to court because there's been a snowstorm and the plow hasn't come through and the roads are not maintained, it affects not only my quality of life, but my attitude and how my husband feels about operating the payloader instead of having the county do it. So I think that could probably be said for anyone who lives in a rural community. Our quality of life is directly related to our ability to get rural water, our ability to get internet, and our ability to have roads. And right now I have rural water and I have electricity, but our roads leave a lot to be desired. And I think that could affect a lot of attitudes, and attitudes affect quality of life. So for me, it's the roads.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Miranda, same question for you.
Our area specifically is in line for a large influx of people with the Sentinel missile program that is on the horizon. I think that it is diligent for the elected officials, whether it be any of the political subdivisions, to be looking at that from a growth standpoint and responsible planning with regards to transportation as well, much like Ashley mentioned. My years serving on city council, I don't think I got more calls about anything than snow removal and the condition of roads. So I can't put enough emphasis on that. With regards to planning, we need to make sure that we're planning so that we've got thoughtful planning for growth of businesses and for additional housing that will be coming into the area, whether it be directly in the Minot region or if it's outside the region, which I believe will probably be the case. I think sometimes there's a little bit of cost savings for people who live just a little further out, and that fits a lot of people's budgets. In addition to that, public safety, much like Jim touched on, having the ability to make sure that we've got the feeling of safeness, the responsiveness of a good sheriff's department in those outlying areas to make sure that those citizens can get those concerns addressed is very important, and it's imperative for businesses and for individuals.
Okay, thank you, Miranda. Shelley, the same question. From a Ward County perspective, what would you change and or improve from a quality of life standpoint that will assist existing or new businesses or residents in the county?
These are all big questions, big idea questions that are being asked.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Yes.
And in this regards, I appreciate the comments, on roads, and I'm, again, at the front end, I said I'm really excited about the opportunity to move on and continue again, because we have finished with the bond money, and now the bond money, the bond money, which is sales tax, that half-cent sales tax, now goes to roads. We've been waiting for this day, so we're very excited to get that, and including the Southwest Transportation, the corridor, we have a study in on that, so these things that are in the works will really, really help to encourage more businesses. I also agree, we have a big influx coming in here in the next few years. I think 3 to 5 years is if it goes through feds, depending on elections, it's everything else. But the change out of our missiles, to bring them up to date is going to be big. The Sheriff's Department, when you talk about quality of life, I look at quality of life for all, where we can work and play in safety and in harmony with everyone. And we do have, right now, we're in the midst of looking at enhancing our drug program within the jail, because we see a lot of people that end up in the jail because they have issues. And so we are looking at opioid money, not taxpayer dollars, opioid dollars that we did lawsuits on, that would hopefully reduce recidivism of these people in the jails and perhaps get that group of folks back onto better recovery and being citizens of our community that can work and also enjoy things that others do.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. And Jedediah, finish us off on this question, please.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure can. From a Ward County perspective, what would you change and or improve from a quality of life standpoint that will assist existing or new businesses or residents in the county?
Well, I would agree with a lot of other people who talked about roads. Infrastructure is an issue, so I think now that we have more money going into that, that would be a great thing to really focus on, just focusing on the basics. I think we should really just hone in on roads, make sure we get roads done, and then I also agree that we should do more to support our law enforcement. And what those, maybe we need tougher laws. Maybe the crime that people are committing does not match the punishment for it. Maybe we need to look at that. But we just need to really work hand in hand with our law enforcement, I think, and really work together and try to solve these issues.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again to the candidates. We are about halfway done with the questions that I've got laid out. We've got a few questions that have already come in. Would remind anyone who's joining us online live that they're welcome to put a question in the comment section. And those who are here in person, if you'd like to, grab a piece of paper and write down your question. We'll try and get to it before the end of the day today. This question, we'll start with you, Ashley. How will you, as an elected leader in our community, support our military?
I think that the community already does a great deal to partner with the military, specifically the Air Force, so I think that that's probably more the focus. And I would like to continue those partnerships. I think it's important to get their input and to do things to assist with housing and other programs that are available. And really, I think that that's something that would probably be left. I think that's something that Ms. Wepler probably has a passion for because of her experience in the military, and it's likely that other people in subcommittees probably handle those items, but I would look to continue those programs that we have available with them now.
Okay, thank you. Miranda, how will you, as an elected leader in our community, support our military?
My family is a retired military family. My husband is retired military. My brother was a full-time member of the Army, and he's no longer with us. The military has a special place in my heart. When I look at the budget, Veteran Services, which I'm very thankful that the county is to offer, or that is able to offer, has just under a $300,000 budget levied for the upcoming year. As I've been meeting with different departments, Veteran Services is high on my list. I have not yet met with them, but I will be doing that in the coming days. With regards to how I personally would support military, I support military in everything that I do. In my daily work, in my family, it's just kind of something inherently in me, and I'm sure it's the same for Shelley. When you are part of a military family, it's just something that you do. So from an elected standpoint, I don't know that I would do anything differently other than be continuing to support all military-type efforts and personnel.
Okay, thank you. Shelley, same question. How will you, as an elected leader in our community, support our military?
I would agree with what has been said. Again, we do have our Veteran Service Office located in our administration building, and I think it's a very important piece that we offer to the community. In addition to that, we also have our space that is given for the DAV, and we have all of their crests up on the wall because it is their room. It's their room to use when they have their meetings. It is a priority for them. So those are the two things right off the top. I think also to encourage also those families who are here, either veterans or those who are currently in the military, to get engaged if they can on committees, to serve on some of the committees, to get involved with the county so that they have a better understanding and are maybe ready to be more engaged when the time comes that they retire here.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Jedediah, same question for you. How will you, as an elected leader in our community, support our military?
I think we're doing a really good job of Ward County. I really personally wouldn't change a thing. I would just keep it like it is.
Okay, Jim, same question.
There's actually in my 8 years, there's not a whole lot that comes before the Ward County Commission that we can influence. I would continue to encourage our Task Force 21 with the county commission support, and also having been a former school board member, I was very involved in the base education of the kids, and was actually the first board member in the country to be recognized as a companion to children for the base kids, and what I'd done to encourage the base kids in their education. So I would urge the school district to continue in this endeavor that they're involved in, to encourage the very best education for the kids, and that would be my suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Jim. That wraps up this question. Let's move on to the next one. This one will start with Miranda. If you were to be elected, what are your top 2 or 3 priorities as a member of the Ward County Commission?
So I've mentioned it, the Southwest Connector Corridor is a #1 priority. Making sure that comes to fruition with thoughtful planning in that area to entice additional development, whether it be residential or commercial, and to provide additional safety for the motorists, specifically in that area and as they travel through the area. That is a #1 priority. #2 priority, like I said, I'm still learning, but at this time it would be it would probably be jail operations, and specifically the opioid programs that Shelley's been talking about or recently talked about. This is a big problem in our area. Drugs are a big problem here, whether you want to believe it or not. It's a big deal, and it's here. People who are struggling with addiction, they are in our community. They do find themselves in jail from time to time. So we need to be able to have a program available to those specifically that are dealing with opioid addiction, that find themselves in jail, so that they can be rehabilitated if it's possible and become functioning members of our community. So I think those would be my top 2 right now.
Okay, thank you. Shelley, would you please tackle the question next? If you were to be elected, what are your top 2 or 3 priorities as a member of the Ward County Commission?
Well, this question could be answered right now, and in, is it 5 weeks to election, 6 weeks to election? It might change at that time, because if Measure 4 passes, right now, my top priority, if Measure 4 passes, is to make sure that we can look for other resources as well to help us, and that is going back to the resolution I'm speaking of. So top priorities to always be on the lookout for ways in which we can fund programming that we have so that we can continue to offer pay raises, because we know that that goes up every year. Cost of living is going up every year. When you look at it, the cards are that your budget goes up every year. Not because somebody's doing something greater, it's because that's how it works. You've got to pay your employees the wage, give them that increase. The other top priority, I haven't mentioned the comprehensive plan, which also could have been answered in a lot of these other questions, but we've been working on a comprehensive plan, redoing our comprehensive plan. We have not passed that yet. And in order for us to make sure that we have the appropriate roads, the appropriate building guidelines, the appropriate rules in place, or guidelines in place for everyone, we must pass that comprehensive plan. It's sitting in our planning committee at this time. So I would say we need to get back to that and get that passed.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Jedediah, the same question.
So when it comes to the county, my top 2 priorities are, number 1, funding the basics. We need to make sure we have good roads. We need to make sure we fund the state fair, just the basics of running a county. The second thing we need to do is we need to not grow government. So the more buildings we build, the more people we hired, we are growing government and increasing the tax burden on these people. Now, we have to understand, right now with inflation, the cost of running a household went up 20%. That's a huge jump this past year, 20%. So with all that being said, everybody's bucket of money, so to speak, is getting smaller because of inflation. So therefore, we need to do as much as we can to give as much money back to the people so they can spend their money the way they want to. And I would also say that with that 6% increase, every 1%, every time we give 1% increase in the county, that's $117,000, I believe my math is correct. So we did that 6 times, which means we are spending more money. Now, we can argue whether, the people are worth it. I'm not saying they're not worth it, but I'm saying, what are we going to cut to cover that? That's a lot of money. So we just need to use the people's money wisely, because it's not our money we're spending. We're funding this through taxpayers' money. It's your money. It's everybody's money who lives in Ward County. So we need to be very tight with our budget. We need to fund the basics and not grow our government.
Okay, thank you, Jedediah. Jim, same question. If you were to be elected, what are your top 2 or 3 priorities as a member of the Ward County Commission?
My top priority would be to do what I've done for the last 8 years, and that is be well prepared for our commission meetings, and which we meet twice a month, and to do my duties of all the other departments that I'm the head of, that I'm the commissioner that oversees them, and continue to be well informed on what's going on in the county and all the issues that come before us. So I will do my best to do all the time and dedicate myself to maintaining the job I've done in the last 8 years.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Ashley, finish us off. If you were to be elected, what are your top 2 or 3 priorities as a member of Ward County Commission?
My top priority would just to be a good listener to the constituents. And I think that I'm well prepared to do that. I mentioned in a newspaper article that I've spent maybe the last 13 years here in Ward County as a criminal defense attorney, and that's not really a secret. So of course I have a lot of experience with the addiction issue, the jail issues, the sheriff issues. I understand a lot of that very well, but also with that, it's given me a great ability to listen to people, maybe the people who are the least listened to. I can listen to the most ridiculous story you've ever heard and pay attention and treat somebody with dignity. And I think that that is my top priority, is to be a good listener to all the people and their concerns. And as I've mentioned, roads are very important to me. And to piggyback on Shelley, to get proper funding. I mean, there's things that are going to be outside the control of county commissioners. And so if the money isn't there, you have to find funding, whether it's through grants or other federal programs. And I certainly don't want to live in a basic community. I want to live in a community that's thriving and meeting the needs of the people who live here. And so that would be my goal, is to listen to people. And I'm very capable of reading and writing and figuring it out and listening to people and making an informed decision. And so that would be my goal.
Thank you, Ashley. We're going to move on to our next question now. This one will start with Shelley. So the question is two questions. Have you had a chance to review the most recent county budget? And what would you change, add, or subtract to that budget?
Well, a short answer, yes, I've had time to review that budget. I see it in my dreams. And my comment about that is that immediately from day one, we were cutting. My time on the commission, we've been cutting. And that made this year extra tough. Why did it make it extra tough? Because we have cut those departments where there's no fat. When you get to the point where there's no fat, there's no slush funds sitting around anywhere. And prices to purchase product is up. And prices to purchase everything is up. There's nowhere to look like you're getting a better dollar in that budget. So we started cutting from day one. And before we had the preliminary budget out, we'd done a lot of hard cuts. But we still haven't finalized it, because we always say there's always a day that you can look and see what else could be cut. But I would say that priority again there is to make sure that we keep that budget within reason, and always thinking of constituents and the amount that comes out of their pocket, yet also thinking about our employees. 270 employees at this time that also go home and pay their housing costs and their grocery costs. So it's a balancing act, but yes, the budget is a very important piece, and $23 million is what we receive in the budget from property taxes. Our budget is $64 million. So that's the piece that we're looking at, that 23 million. Can we replace it? How can we replace it? We will see in a few weeks. Even if it doesn't pass, I guarantee you that all of the talk has made more people realize, and everyone more aware, that we probably could do a better job at seeing if there's another pot somewhere that we could look at.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Jedediah, same question. Have you had a chance to review the most recent county budget, and what would you change, add, or subtract to that budget?
Yes, I have had a chance to review it, and one thing that I'm not really a big fan of is a 6% increase for the county workers. Now you say, well, why would you say that, Jed? So I've been in retail for 22 years now. So you know how many times I've received a 6% raise or more? One time. Okay, if you look in the retail world, the private sectors, that's not something that we do. Now, I'm grateful we found the funds to do it, but at the end of the day, I think it might be more important that we focus on our community and say, hey, everybody's hurting. Maybe we only give a 2%, and then we cut something somewhere else, and we start cutting checks back to people. Maybe we need to start sending checks back to people who are taxing, because, hey, they've got their houses to pay too. And if we don't have our people, we don't have anything. Truly, it's a true statement. The power to tax is the power to destroy. So before I give, that much of an increase, I would definitely make sure that we're cutting other places, or maybe we can give that, but we have to maybe, lose some people to do that. I don't know, but I think I was not a fan of that move. But I was a fan of what Chairman Feldoff did. Is there was a position that was going to open at the jail to give that new drug, and I can't remember what it was, something they were talking about. That position went away. I was in favor of that.
Okay, thank you, Jedediah. Jim, same question to you.
My fellow commissioners and I have been dealing with this since July, and then especially our first budget meeting was in August, and just as the city deals with it, so does the county commission. And I feel fortunate that we've really got 5 pretty conservative commissioners on there right now. And we all question, or someone has an idea, and we question it back and forth, and the communication is a real open communication. I don't think we have anyone that holds back their feelings, and I think it worked well in this budget. We've spent a lot of time hammering everything out, and I'm proud to be a member of that, and I'm also proud of my fellow commissioners that we've really put a lot of thought and hard work into this budget. So I plan on signing off on the budget tomorrow morning at we have a, what is it, Shelley, 9 o'clock meeting, 8:30? 8:30. Yeah, but I plan on supporting the budget as where we've arrived at, so.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Ashley, same question. Have you had a chance to review the most recent county budget, and what would you change, add, or subtract to the budget?
I have reviewed parts of the budget. I guess I have more questions than answers, and part of that's probably because I haven't attended these meetings. I know that elections account for $150,000 worth of money, and I don't know if that's per year, and is that the auditor's salary? I just have a lot of questions about what that $150,000 is, and I think Miranda here's looking at the breakdown of it. But I do have a lot of those questions, and you know, I am generally very conservative with my own money, and I would expect to be as conservative as possible with the people's money. That said, given my experience with my job, I couldn't actually disagree with Jedediah Moore. I think that increase in salary, particularly for the sheriff's department, is woefully needed. And with a pay study that shows that they were 14% underpaid compared to similarly situated counties within the state of North Dakota, it gives you an idea of what's happening to our good deputies. And that's not to say that the ones that are left are bad deputies. It's to say that it's going to be really hard to maintain employees that can maintain law and order and respond to things quickly within the county. If you don't have enough employees, you're not going to be able to meet those needs, and those are basic needs. To not have enough deputies and law enforcement, it's a basic need, and they need more training. And I think that that could be managed by providing more funding, and I think that increase did need to occur, and I think that what the commissioners did with that was appropriate. Yeah, I just actually have some questions about the elections line item and why it's $150,000, but I don't know, because I thought all the people who did that volunteered, so. They don't.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Miranda, same question to you. Finish us off.
I actually have the budget right here. I carry it around with me. It's got plenty of notes on it. There's chicken scratch all over it and highlighting and different things. I've looked at a lot of budgets, having sat with Jim on the school board and sitting on the city council. I've looked at a lot of budgets. This is a lean budget. It is a very lean budget. It's hard to say where you would cut from. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't matter who you elect in this election, because we don't get to make a say in this budget. And depending on how things happen with potentially Measure 4, things will be very different for the people that do get elected, because this budget will have been passed before we actually take our seats. There is one thing in this budget, though, that I do have concerns about, and it probably isn't going to make existing commissioners happy. Having served in different positions, I know, what I got paid when I was on city council. It was $495 a month. I know there was a council member here a minute ago. I think they're over $1,000 now. On the school board, I think we made $600 a month. Jim maybe made a little more because he was the president of our board. The pay for commissioners is pretty substantial. I think it's $23,000 a year. It's pretty substantial. But I do have a problem with, it's a part-time position, and I understand there's a lot of hours that go into it. But in the upcoming budget, there is allotment for $136,858 for health insurance, for a part-time position when the county's not offering health insurance for other part-time employees. I think that one needs to go away. Again, that one's not going to make me popular with any existing commissioners that are utilizing that service. I just don't believe that it is, it should be in the budget. So that would be the one thing I would cut.
Okay, thank you, Miranda. We are going to go on to the next question now. This one, we start with Jedediah. Clearly, property taxes is a big topic of discussion across the state, with an initiated ballot measure being voted on in November. Whether this measure passes or fails, how will you respond as a newly elected Ward County Commissioner? What would your next steps be? And an important note here, we are not asking you to state how you're going to vote in November, as this would be an inappropriate type of question for this kind of forum. But whether this measure passes or fails, what will your response be based on those two different opportunities?
Well, part of that, what's going to happen is going to be dependent on what the state does. So the state can drag this out if they really want to and make it as painful as possible, or the state can come and be like, look, you know, you lost $23,000, here's $23,000, boom, right there, done, out of the way. If they do that, things are simple. Now, if they say, well, we can only pay Minot 24, then we need to figure out what we're going to do to get to that to get that number. So are we going to cut something else out, or are we going to go ahead and figure something else out? Maybe, I don't know. I don't really want to raise taxes because, again, the more taxes you raise, the less money everybody else has. So we're just going to have to figure it out. But I don't think that the scare tactic of, oh, we're going to have to go through the roof and raise everything is appropriate. We'll figure it out and we'll make it happen. I think the state will do the right thing and just come through for us and give us that money. So that's my plan. We'll have other options we can go to, but the state will come through, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, thank you, Jedediah. Same question, Jim. With the initiated ballot measure being voted on in November on property taxes, whether this measure passes or fails, how will you respond as a newly elected Ward County Commissioner? What would your next steps be?
My next steps would be to encourage, and I think I know virtually every legislator somewhat personally, would be encourage them to do whatever they can to lower property taxes, and they're far more educated and hopefully know where the funds are down in Bismarck, that they can lower property taxes, pass or fail. I want to see property taxes lowered too, and yet I don't feel qualified to guide them or direct them on how to do this. They're the ones that are down there, and certainly they have more experience and knowledge of where the money lies, and we all hear things about funds that are available down there. But I want our legislators to really get involved in this and do everything they can to lower property taxes for us.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Ashley, same question to you.
If you have less money available, then you work within your budget. I mean, that's what you do. So if you're elected and there's less money, you work within that budget and then you find more funding. And that's what you do. I mean, that's it.
Okay, Miranda, you're next. Whether this measure passes or fails, how will you respond as a newly elected Ward County Commissioner? What would your next steps be?
Ashley gave the perfect answer. That really was the perfect answer. You, just like your household income, you have a budget, you have to work within it. So no matter if this passes or does not pass, you have to work within those budget numbers. I do have some concerns if it does pass. If you listen to Dr. Rick Becker, he has talked about the local control remaining local, which I believe it will, but he also talks about additional ways to increase funds for projects or for fees that are needed or services that are needed by increasing different types of taxes and fees. I believe that that's going to fall on those of us that live here. If it does not pass, I would encourage legislators to look at that in a way that you've got a large section of our state who really want to see property tax reform, and it's become kind of a buzzword. It is a large line item in all of our budgets. I would bet that most of us, if we added up our sales tax, it might be close to that as well, but we pay that over time, so it doesn't hurt as much when we do that. I would encourage, if it does not pass, legislators to look at funding our K through 12 schools with the funds at the state. And people have to realize the state is not a different entity. That's everybody sitting in this room. That's all of us that live in this state. It's our money. It's not a secondary source of money. Same thing when you're looking at your budgets, whether it be the county or the city. That isn't a separate entity. That's all of our money. So if it does not pass, the legislators need to look at a way to potentially fund K through 12 education. I believe that there's a path for it. I believe that there are legislators who are looking into that. I know we've got the $500 tax credit that is for your primary residence in North Dakota. I believe we have a mechanism for us to identify the primary residents as well within this state, the ones that would see the increased fees and the increased taxes if that did in fact happen. I think that we have a way to give back to those people. I would really like to see an elimination of property tax for primary tax residents, wholly, and then 100% funding of the K through 12 schools at the state level.
Okay, thank you, Miranda. And Shelley, finish us off on this question.
I'm going to ask you to repeat again.
For sure.
I'm listening so intently.
I don't blame you. Okay, so clearly property taxes is a big topic of discussion across the state. Whether the measure passes or fails, how will you respond as a newly elected Ward County Commissioner? What would your next steps be?
Thank you. Earlier, I stated that I've already submitted a resolution to our North Dakota Association of Counties. And those resolutions that pass through North Dakota Association of Counties then go on to our legislators. And one of those resolutions that I passed, or that I wrote up and submitted, was that we take a close look at all of the exemptions that are allowable under the North Dakota Century Code that are put upon the local governments to spend, unfunded mandates, in other words. Look at all the unfunded mandates that we're required to follow. Another resolution that Commissioner Feldall has added to that is the exemption. We have a hotel in Kenmare right now. Once someone doesn't pay their property taxes, the county becomes the owner of that. And if it needs to be torn down, like the Big M building, if we need to tear the Big M building down, that comes out of property taxes, and it's the county's responsibility. So those two pieces, if we can work more closely with our legislators, instead of feel like we have state legislators and our local government officials, I think we need to work more closely together and realize that all of these budgets tie together, and that every action is taken when you're a legislator and you pass new legislation. I think you need to visit very closely with the local governments to find out what the impact is, because I don't think they realize the impacts that happen after that goes through. So definitely I would continue to look for other ways, whether it passes or it doesn't pass. We need to continue to look at other ways that we can bring more resources in, or look at those mandates that are demanded of us because we're a local government, and ask more questions and see if we can work together and they can find the dollars at the state level to fund those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. We have a few questions now from the audience or from those online that we'd like to address as well tonight. So I think we are starting next with Jim. Okay, Jim, this question comes from an individual who says, some residents in town have questioned the need for the Ward County Library because of the city library. How important do you think the county library is for our more rural residents? And would you ever consider closing it down or combining?
We had this come up and it was voted on by the people, and they rejected the idea. I was in favor of it simply because it's 9 blocks away, and our budget now for the Ward County Library is $600,000 plus. And my idea was that we could have had the best bookmobile by combining with Minot, because 41% of the materials are duplicate in both libraries. And so I thought we could save a lot of money that way, and we could have the biggest and best bookmobile in the state. And so I wanted to do that, but I think the rural people especially were not in favor of this, and they were concerned that it may not be run properly, but it wound up going to the voters, and they voted no, and I accept that. So, you can't, you've got to accept what the voters want sometime, and I did, so.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Ashley, same question. Some residents in town have questioned the need for the Ward County Library because of the city library. How important do you think the county library is for our more rural residents, and would you ever consider closing it down or combining?
Our family has library cards at both locations, so we utilize both of them. And I often question that. But I do know that my children regularly check out bookmobile books at school and utilize those books and can request books from their teachers and whatnot. So I know for our family personally, the bookmobile is important. But to piggyback off of Jim, I mean, you could certainly make a great bookmobile with the budget and combine those books and cut the budget somewhat there. But if the voters have made this decision, it is what it is. I don't think having 2 physical libraries is necessary. But I do think that the bookmobile for the rural community is very important.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Miranda, same question.
So as a previous school board member, I recently toured the Minot North High School that recently was opened, and I was kind of surprised by how small the library was. Being an 80s kid, we had big libraries. You actually pulled the Rolodex out and found your book. It's a whole different system. Things are evolving, though, and the younger generation is not necessarily relying on books like my generation and others. I believe if the voters said we need to keep it, we need to keep it. The voters said we need to keep it, that's the case. But I do believe there could be a good partnership, and I know we've got a member of our city library board here with us today. There could be a really good partnership specifically for the bookmobiles within the town or within the community in the county. If we were to work with the city library, I don't know that, I think that it is cost efficient to have 2 libraries in town. I believe that when you reference the library, most people are thinking of the one down on 6th Street for the most part. A lot of people don't even realize that there's a county library. But again, if the voters said they want to keep it, then so be it. That's what we have to do. Although I would be in favor of combining specifically the bookmobiles to keep that going out to those outlying areas if we could partner with the city library.
Okay, Shelley, same question to you.
Thank you. I think everything has been said. I agree with what has been said. And priority for me would be that we do not lose the connection with our rural communities. We do have a subset in Kenmare, and so there is the library in Kenmare, and I know that the bookmobiles going out to those rural communities are an event. And they look forward to that. And I would hate to see that lost, and I don't know how you put that in an MOU that says this would never go away, but I know that was one of the concerns, was that we maintain that rural connection and make sure that the bookmobile stays and the bookmobile continues to go out.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. And Jedediah, finish us off. Some residents in town have questioned the need for the Ward County Library because of the city library. How important do you think the county library is for our more rural residents? And would you ever consider closing it down or combining?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. You know, I think it would be a good idea maybe to bring that back to the voters and see what they think again now that, you know, things are tight and we're trying to save money. But I do like the idea, because I used to live in Ryder, that bookmobile used to come to Ryder. I'm like, yes, bookmobile's here. So, you know, I maybe a little nostalgic, but I like the bookmobile. I like to keep that. But as far as if, you know, the voters would allow it, and if we could find some way to work with Minot on how to, you know, maybe combine both, I would not be opposed against combining, because we're consolidating our efforts so we can give more money back to the people so they have more money to work with.
Okay, thank you. And actually, we are wrapping up a little bit early tonight. We have one more question we'd like to ask the candidates. And we're going to start this one with Ashley. So Ashley, you can finish us off tonight. The question is simple. How do you plan to connect to and be able to listen to constituents?
I think I've talked about this. But that being said, I do find that generally I'm personable and I respond to people. I have a wide variety of connections within the community, whether it be professionals in the area or farmers. So I don't really foresee it being a problem. And, you know, if somebody sends me an email saying, County Road 15 looks terrible, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to respond, because I know that people in the past have responded to me and what it meant to me. So I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Miranda, how do you plan to connect to and be able to listen to the constituents?
Having served in an elected position, I've been listening to constituents since originally elected, I think in 2014. I'm easily accessible via email, by phone. In fact, people drop into my office. My staff will tell you very often I'll get a phone call or somebody will pop in and they'll say, oh, I can't help them. They're here because they needed to see you for school board issues or they needed to see you for city issues. I would continue to be as accessible as I am right now. It falls on the voters, essentially. If you want to talk to your elected representatives, you just got to reach out. You got to call them, maybe send them an email, or just show up at the address that they have listed or that they work at if they list that. I would continue to do those things. I would continue to be responsive. I think Jim and I were on school board when COVID happened. I don't know if you were, Mark, but I don't think I've ever fielded as many emails and phone calls during that year, ever. And I responded to every single one of them that I got. I don't think I missed a single one. And that was hundreds, maybe even up to thousands, so.
Okay, thank you. Shelley, how do you plan to connect to and be able to listen to the constituents?
Well, my door is open. And people will say, well, how do I get a hold of you? And I'll say, take your phone, Google Shelley Wepler, and you will have my phone number because it's a public number. That's one thing when you go into an elected position is they want that phone number, what's your contact information? So you can find me if you have a question and you need to. However, you can also find me because I'm engaged in chamber events. So those keep me grounded and in touch with lots of other people. Chamber events, symphony events, other concerts, other events that happen throughout the community. I think it's important that we are there at those events, number one, to make sure that we're seeing the quality of life that is being offered by all those different groups, and number two, so that people can see that you are a part of the community and not absent. Even going through a Walmart, you realize it once you're elected where someone will come running up, and I feel invisible often, and you realize that you're not. But I welcome connections, contacts. I too, any emails, I respond to them immediately.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Jedediah, how do you plan to connect to and be able to listen to the constituents?
Well, you can get a hold of me at work. I work at Petco. I'm the store manager, so you can get a hold of me there. Or you can stop at my house. That's fine too. And the biggest thing is I always take care of my people. So at work, someone has a funeral. I'm just going to we'll cover the funeral. You go be with, whoever. Do what you have to do, because at the end of the day, my job, if I'm elected, is to take care of the county. So you can always come up to me, talk to me. Doesn't matter where I'm at, what I'm doing, work, house, whatever. My job is to take care of you. So please don't be afraid. I'm never too busy for you.
Okay, thank you, Jedediah. And Jim, finish us off. How do you plan to connect to and be able to listen to the constituents?
As I have since 1988. My phone number's in the book. You can find me on the internet, also through Ward County. If you go through there and you see the connections there were listed. So, and my phone, I don't shut it off often enough. If I don't answer your call, it's because I forgot to turn the darn thing on after the meeting. And I'm pretty good at that, I'm sorry to say. But otherwise, if it's on, I don't shut it off. It's on 24/7, and I think you're supposed to turn it on and off to reboot it, and I don't do that often enough. But yeah, anyone who doesn't get a hold of me isn't trying very hard.
Okay, thank you, Jim. That's going to wrap up our candidate forum tonight. I want to thank all our candidates for being here today, and thanks to our community for listening to this forum and participating. And we encourage residents to please vote on November 5th or before. Have a good night.
Thank you all for coming.